Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy New Year. I hope it's been a good New Year for you. So the first video of this year is gonna be the Revell Bell AH-1G Cobra, prototype Cobra, Vietnam era Cobra. I picked this up specifically for my Tanks to Modern Age game. Got it from Hobby Town in Waco. Remember that video a while back? Anyway, so yeah, that's the price of it. $11.95 is the retail price that they had it for. If you pick it up online, I have seen them as low as about $8 and some change, but after that $5 shipping, it ends up being this. So hey, the convenience was there. Picked it up. It is a 1/100 scale kit with 52 parts. Not much information on this specifically. This is a product of Revell Germany. From my understanding, it had been staying on the shelf for a while, so this was prior to Revell being completely absorbed by Revell Germany. So this is the German kit. It's very obvious because everything that's written on here, the very first set of lines is all in German. The second set is in English. Whether that be British English or American English, you take your pick. Here's your color guide, which we are not going to be using whatsoever. Tools recommended. And that's about it. There's no history on the back of this or anything, as is typical of a lot of model kits. So let's go ahead and take a look at the parts. I'm sure there's other videos, but first we'll go ahead and go through this because I'm gonna do kind of a build video, kind of not. Here are these are all the decals that come with it, most of which I probably will not be using. I will be using the United States decals. I will be cutting off Army on there because I have another intent to use this for. So let's look at the instructions real quick. Now I will say the instructions they're kind of nice. It's a really full thing, but it's the typical Revell instruction kit, which even when I was a kid I never really liked. Just kind of shows you do this. This is BS crap. What the symbols mean. No real instruction. Put it like that. So there's the sprues, and we'll be looking at the sprues. Actually, they're called runners, but we'll just call them sprues because that's what everybody does. They do have a thing, you need spare parts. Warranty can only accept blah blah blah. You don't need to know that. Here is your color key, which is again not what I'm going to be using because I have a totally different intent. And the instructions should be a fairly quick kit to make. Yeah, it is. I don't know why it includes all this stuff for the engine because you don't see most of it. All you really see is this exhaust port. But it is what it is. It's just going to get slapped in there anyway. Not a really detailed kit, but I don't need it for detailing because this is strictly for a game. I don't know if the rotors actually turn or not. I will find out. I'm sure they do. But they're going to end up being in static poses anyway. I'm not sure what the heck this part is. I've never seen one on a Cobra here stationed at Fort Hood. Oh, it goes on the bottom. See over here, it looks like it goes somewhat on the side. That's just kind of weird. It looks like it goes on the side, but it actually does go on the bottom. Alright, so yeah, that's what we're looking at. Here's where all the decals go, more or less. Like I said, I'll only be using the United States portion of this. I will not be using the Army portion, as I did want this to be a Marine decal model. However, since I could not find any black stencil decals, decided to do my typical thing. I am going with G.I. Joe Steel Brigade decals. Now I got these decals, if you're looking for them. Bad Mother Tattoo and Customs. These are decals that are scaled more for the 3 1/4 inch G.I. Joes or Star Wars. He has tons of them on eBay. Look them up, Bad Mother Tattoo and Customs. They look really cool. This is the first time I had ordered some, and I do intend to use them for the first time on this. I'll probably be using these smaller ones, maybe these middle-sized ones in the colored, not the black and whites. I'll be using black and whites for something else. I'm not sure quite yet, but I will be using them maybe for the Arctic team or whatever. But anyway, so yeah, I might even use this. It depends. But these are going to be going for all my Americans on tanks, modern age. Yeah, let's put these aside. Let's go ahead and take a look at these runners. And if I hadn't said it before, this is going to be a fairly long video because I'm going to build this. You're not going to see every step, but I'm going to build it and then show the painting. Here's another thing, safety advice. If you're an experienced modeler, you don't need this. If you're inexperienced, you probably don't need this because us experienced modelers have said over and over, be very careful. Okay, if you're not experienced with cutting tools, especially if you're a younger person, you know, get a parent, get somebody with experience to give you a guide. There's nothing wrong with asking for help when it comes to this hobby because most of us hobbyists love to help and share our knowledge with the newcomers. We really do. You're not a noob, you're a newcomer, and we're going to get you there. We're going to get you to the level. So let's take a look. Again, this is 1/100 scale, comes on 2 runners. There should be a clear one, and there it is. It's kind of stuck in there. Don't want to scratch it. Okay, so there's our canopy. I'm going to have to put this in a quick dip of Future so I can get that super clear. So let's look at this runner. It's pretty damn small. It's much smaller than what I thought. This should be a really quick build. You can see here, this to me, this all looks like this is all part of the, well, here are the seats, cockpit, bottom of the seat, nose, bottom of that. There's some really small pieces here. Now look here, these are pieces 8 and 7. I don't like the way these gates are on there, or hell, even for part 6. That's really tiny. I'm gonna have to do some major, well, not major, some serious, very careful work on it. And these landing skids are pretty thin. They're like super thin. This is something that can break off. I may have to think about replacing these with some brass tubing. So anyway, here's the missiles, another part of the rotor. There's that engine that's just going to go there. Parts 17 and 18, not sure what the hell they are. So yeah, this should actually go together pretty quick. The paint should be pretty quick. So I'm going to go ahead and start building this and cut the video. I'm going to come back. I should have some of the sub-assemblies and assemblies already connected, already glued together. And then we'll start the airbrush work. Alright, so I'm at a stage where I have to show you something before I go any further because I got to move pretty quickly on this. So, let me show you what I've done so far. So I did the cockpit, which is pretty much done. It's not the cleanest build. Parts don't exactly fit right. And I admit I didn't clean it up as well as I probably could have or should have. But I'm glad I didn't. Now, like I've shown a lot of my videos, I use this Tamiya extra thin cement because what it does is it's really thin. It gets into all the cracks. Kind of acts like a gap filler somewhat because it melts everything together. But it also gives you a little bit of play time in order to get parts put into the right position that you need. So, with that being said, let me put this down real quick. Let me move the camera down a little bit because I'm going to have to do some detail work here. And I want you to see the problem with this model. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm thinking it might just be worth, instead of getting this as a proxy, just to spend the money on the one for tanks to modern age or Battlefront model. So I also did and I'll show the instructions in a minute, but I got to move really quick. Here's the internal engine. And like I said, it's no real point because when you look at it, and it's not going to focus, don't have really time to mess with this, but anyway, right here, that's the only part you're going to see of that internal engine. Everything else, this is where the mast of the propeller is going to go, the top prop is going to go right there. So anyway, so on this model, okay, this is where you're supposed to put, oh, there we go. So yeah, just that little bit right there is what shows. And then it kind of goes in like here, you know, old school kits. You got this guide
for where everything is supposed to go. It doesn't snap together. On the instruction sheet, it's not really clear on how far parts should be and what angle they should actually be at. But assembling it, I thought it was correct. It is not correct. So I gotta move pretty quick, and I'm gonna do my best to show you how to get this in there right. So I'm using the thin cement. What I have to do is put some right here, and right here, because some of these parts do not line up correctly. Now I'm putting a little bit more than what I should. The reason is I need some extra time. Alright, so this back piece should go on this piece right here, and then so on and so forth. This flat piece right here should align with this right here. And it doesn't quite do it, so put in the cement. I gotta put in the cement, and I gotta move this. I've already kind of did it because I was messing with it a little bit ago. Now you can see that fits flush. Because if you just put it in based on the instruction manual, it's not going to look right. You can see now, there we go. It is in there. So yeah, when you glue this back piece, I'm going to show you the instructions in a second. But when you glue that back piece, I really recommend using this stuff so you have the time to play around with it and bend. So now it's in there. Now you see this front piece of the display panel, it's not correct. Because again, it doesn't exactly tell you where to go. So I'm going to move that forward a little bit because I still have time. There we go. Because that is supposed to be also flush with the front of the cockpit, and it is not, and it's still not. So we're going to put a little bit more in here. And I'm not worried about this glue showing because I'm going to prime it in just a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to have to do it from this side. There we go. Still trying to do this while using the camera. There it is. Now I'm going to have to hold this in place for just a second. There it is. I wasn't intending to glue this in until I painted everything, because I was intending to put the decals and whatnot. Excuse me. I could still put the decals on there on the display pieces, but just so I could get them in the right position. Okay, so now we have everything in the right position, as you can see. Now everything is flush, more or less. And like I said, I didn't do a great job cleaning up the cockpit, but you're not going to see half of that anyway. It's not a big deal. Now hopefully this will match up with the other side. I hope. I didn't do a test fitting. I should have, but I didn't. But I'm doing this so you can learn from my mistakes if you decide to pick up this model. Okay, so that's all together. So the engine, well, let's go ahead and show the instructions, because now I got to let that dry a little bit before I move forward. Alright, so on the instruction manual, it's got a lot of the parts of, do I really need this little piece of shit? Let me get my little pointer. I haven't used that in a while. So this piece here, they're a pain in the ass. They're tiny little itty bitty pieces. On the model itself, you're not going to see them. And to be honest with you, I don't see a point in even putting them on, because you really don't see them at all. Okay, so these two things, put them in if you want. I don't think you need them. Joystick, yeah, you're going to need that. Then over here, another joystick, another stick. This is that back piece I was telling you that needs to fit on the back of the airframe. That's this part right here. It just kind of slides in. You got to glue everything together. So yeah, that needs to get in there. So here's a decal that goes on this. This is that front part that I was aligning with the front of the cockpit. Again, it doesn't really say, it shows it right here. However, there are two little pegs that you can't see. They're going to be right here and right here. This doesn't show you whether or not they should go on the pegs, if these pegs should be cut off. I think they should, but it doesn't show that. So I went with what was in the instructions. Yeah, there's two little pegs. You can kind of see it right here, but it's not very clear at all. Alright, with the seats, this one just kind of put in there. I guess it's supposed to sit flat. I got mine in there flat. This part, so this part right here, this has an edge right here. It doesn't go inside of this because this larger piece is hollow. This piece actually sits on the edge all around here. Okay, do that. You know, get this pot cleaned up before you glue it on here. Then this seat again goes back here. It's not going to be quite flush with this because I do have the bottom of this flat with this, which is at an angle, and it does not end up being flush. Alright, so your engine is pretty self-explanatory. These two pieces connect together. They're pretty good. I believe this part 15, had a little bit of flash on it. On this part right here, and on the inside, well, on the opposite side, it'll be right here. So I had to clean that out, which ended up making it look a little too thin, so I had to thin this one out also. Might put a piece of brass in there just to extend it slightly. And this is pretty easy. One solid piece. You just want to apply glue here, 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 and here. Don't bother applying glue there because this piece does not actually touch that. Okay, so you're going to put the glue in this little square area right here. And you just saw where I attached this. And this is the cockpit. And like I said, it's got these little guiding points. This piece and this piece, you're going to have to give it a little bit of work so it can fit flush with this and slightly back with this, because this ends up being flush with the edge over here. This one is pretty easy. You saw I already glued it in. It's got the guide points, no problems there. I'm just hoping that the propeller prop, when it goes in, actually connects to this. Alright, so now I'm going to show you. I've gotten up to this point. I already put it together. Pretty self-explanatory. These are your forward guns. This part does have a little connection point that attached to this. There's a hollow point in here. They just go together. This is a no frills pot. They just kind of sit in here. I went ahead and glued them in because it's just going to end up being a static piece. This part goes on top of here. Now this post right here, this mast, is very, very thin. I don't know whether it was because me mishandling the runner or when I was cutting it, but it ended up bending. So I had to bend it back in place. This little circular piece, part 19, just pops right in there. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it right in here. Now I'm assuming this is supposed to be able to swivel around. This is not the greatest kit to do that with. I'm going to tell you straight up. See, because it shows not gluing. I am going to glue it in place. Because of the paint scheme I'm going with, is going to be easy for me to paint this. I might end up adding some brass tubing on this to cover it, just to make them look a little bit bigger, because this is not going to be a display piece at all. So the next stages are just assembling this half, which I will do here shortly. Let me show you the front guns, the forward guns, because they are tiny. I have them here somewhere. I may have moved them. There they are. Alright, so these front guns, they are very, very small. Again, not the best cleanup job, but that's okay. I ended up putting them, you see if I put a parallel, kind of in a downward position. So let's go ahead and glue these in real quick. Then we'll get the other side, we'll clean it up and do that. I'm not going to worry about the cockpit interior because there's no point. I'm going to end up painting the glass anyway. I've got it right now sitting in my future, in my thing of future, so it can be super, super, super shiny. And then I am going to use an orange ghost tint on top of that. So you see I already applied the Tamiya thin cement. And this is a pain in the ass. I'm not afraid to say it, because I am not sponsored by anybody, nor is Revell sponsoring me, nor did they supply this kit. I bought this with my own money. There we go. So we're going to put that in there. You know what? I don't think I even need, sorry. I don't think I even need to get that little piece on there. for it to rotate. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and take that off because it's just not fitting. So let me go ahead and get rid of this piece right here. I don't need it. I already glued it on, unfortunately. Yeah, as you can see, there goes that piece right there. Maybe if I just stretch it out a little bit, maybe that'll help. There it goes. It goes in a lot better now. There we go. Let me just make sure it's in a forward position. So yeah, it's in there. Not exactly great, but again, this is not a display piece. You know what? Yeah, you know what? Go ahead and chop that off. Go ahead and chop that off. Why not? There it goes. No big deal. Alright, so we're going to put that there. Now I'm going to... Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to have to put on some glue. I've never said I am the greatest modeler in the world. I've never said that. I learn something new every day, or at least I try to. And there it goes. From profile, if it'll show. We'll worry about that in a second. Alright, let's go ahead and get that other half. We'll get that going. All in all, this is actually a pretty fast kit to build, unless you're looking to do some detailing. I am not in this one, not for this one, definitely not for this one. Okay, so you're probably saying, dude, why are you using your blade to cut off the nubs? That's just what I'm used to doing. I go back and I use these nice little files. Get that file down real quick. I do suggest always using your file in one direction, but you'll often see me going in back and forth like I am now, just to get some of these more stubborn pieces. There we go, nice and smooth there. And we have one on the tail rotor. Nice and smooth there. A little thicker piece right here above the engine cowling. Alright, we'll put this over here. Alright, and then one more last big piece right there. So I'm going to have to cut it down a little bit. There we go. And done. So now we're going to go ahead and just assemble this. Then I'm going to take a break for a minute and start getting ready for the other pieces. We're going to go ahead and test fit real quick. See if everything lines up, and it's not. Looks like I got a little bit of leftover flash right here. Go ahead, take care of that. Alright, let's see. Hopefully everything winds up the right way. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. I know, I keep doing it off camera. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and lift up the camera a little bit, so that way you can actually see what I'm doing. Alright, so, got this side. All this stuff I can paint later. Dot there, so I can connect it. One here. Along the lower edge. Yeah, this Tamiya stuff is freaking great. Just gonna get in some select spots. And anything I miss, I can go back later and fix. Okay. So it looks like I'm gonna have to hold it for a second to let everything glue. Now you apply pressure when using this Tamiya stuff. Give it a capillary action, and I'm gonna add some more right here and right here. Now that I know it actually fits right and I've got it in a good position. But yeah, you add you put pressure on here. You probably want to get some rubber bands. Do a capillary action. This way the paint melts, not the paint, I'm sorry, the plastic ends up melting together. Which I probably should have done early, because you know, I haven't really built a Revell kit in a long time. Probably since the 80s or early 90s, early to mid 90s, before I really got into gunpla. But I do remember Revell kits not being the greatest in the world. Okay, this tail looks good. Now it's the front end. This front end definitely needs to get some glue. There we go. Now, as you can see, my front gun was twisted. Now I've got it moved. I was able to move it. I'm going to leave that little gap. There you go. That little gap that's in there, just to show that it's not one solid piece. Alright, so we're going to let this dry. I'm going to take a break for a minute, grab something to eat. Like I said, it's actually a pretty quick kit to build. It should be a lot faster for you to build, seeing what I'm doing. The painting, on the other hand, could take you a while if you want to get all detailed. I'm not. I'm actually going to do a 2, maybe a 3 tones on the control sticks. I don't know why I keep calling them joysticks. Maybe some on the control sticks, and that's about it. Everything else is going to be weathering and a little bit of detailing, not much. Alright, so that's about it. We're going to let this dry, and on to the next one. Alright, it is finally done, more or less. Minus the paint and minus the canopy, because the canopy is still drying after putting it through some future. So we're not going to show the canopy right now, but you'll get the general idea. So, thoughts on this kit will come at the end. So here is the size. Here is your main rotor. It's about 5 1/4 inches. About maybe close to 5.5 inches long. Your tail rotor is 1 inch exactly. And the bird itself, the Cobra, is roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about 5 inches also. About the length of the rotor, full length. About 1 inch wide when you got the skids. So, got some issues with this model. Don't know if it's something that you're going to want to get. If you're a fan of Revell, go for it. No, don't let me dissuade you. Personally, like I said, I've known better than to get Revell. I've always been disappointed by Revell model kits because of lack of detail or the lack of instruction. So speaking of instructions, let's take a look at the instructions so I can tell you some things that are incorrect on here. Alright, so we will start where I had left off. The missile pods, they're pretty self-explanatory. They're very easy. They don't quite line up correctly. They do for the most part. The tubes themselves do. However, the end caps do not sit flush without some sanding. Quite a bit of sanding, actually. Very difficult to do because they are so small. Mine fell out of my hands quite a bit. This part right here for the air intake. Okay, so when it's on the sprue, this is actually backwards. This looks like the back side. You know, the crappy side when they do the injection mold. So I had wanted to flip it over to the side that looked good. Unfortunately, it is molded in such a way that you have to use what I would consider the back side facing out over here. And it doesn't quite fit flush regardless of sanding or anything like that. So just going to have to put it in and hope for the best. That's on both sides. Here is something that is incorrect on the instruction sheet. This is part 26, part 27. These are those rear fin stabilizers. Reverse that. Part 27 should actually go over here. Part 26 should go on this side. Basically, the right side should have part 27. Part 26 needs to go on the left side. The reason being is you can see there's a little panel line that's right there. It doesn't show it on this diagram, but there's a little panel line right here that should be facing forward. If you put this part 27 actually on the left side, you're going to have to flip this over, and that panel line will now be facing in the rear, and the flat side will be facing forward instead of the angled side facing forward. So just keep that in mind. Part 27, and then part 26 over here. The missile pods are actually going pretty easily. I would honestly suggest, excuse me, putting these on prior to putting on these skids. And the reason why I say that is the skids, they do go in quite well. And I will show you this now. As you can see, and take it off, it sits rather low, like really, really low. Really low to the ground. Not sure if that's what it's supposed to do, but they are in correctly. I don't know if the weight of the model, which is like not even maybe an ounce, if that, maybe a quarter ounce in total weight, if it pushed it down. But yeah, it doesn't sit quite right. So what I ended up having to do is with the inner missiles, the inner rockets, I had to go underneath and between the skids right here and this part right here to actually mount them in, to glue them on. These were no problem, but again, they're not the greatest in the world. Another issue you might have, so let's go ahead and get some light down here a little bit better. Alright, so you've got this tail rotor here. Now as you can see on the diagram, you're supposed to get this little part, put it in the rotor, and then stick it in. This little thing is literally like a pin. I mean, it is so small, I lost it. I really did lose it. I'll probably find it at some other point, but its lost is gone. So this rotor is going to get ended up glued in, which is fine because it's going to be static. Now the main rotor will fit in there just fine, and it does have a nice movement to it. So if you want to put it in, and do not glue this in for storage purposes, except for gaming purposes, you might want to not glue this in, but it does move quite freely, so looks good. So now let's do some comparison video. Alright, so my friend John has a Flames of War Cobra. Not sure exactly which model Cobra it is. He did not paint that. This is the way he got it. You can see it's been in storage for quite a while because nobody's playing Flames of War Team Yankee around here. They are about the same length. The Revell model is just slightly larger. The Revell model also only has that really rinky-dinky twin gun there, whereas the Flames of War model has a much more eye-pleasing weapon. Same with the missile pods. It's got the inner missile pod on the Flames of War one. And then those rockets right there, where the Revell has the 2 pods there. Also, if you notice, it doesn't have that air intake that really, oops, sorry about that. Here's that really ugly air intake. Like I said, you gotta look, this is what I would consider the back side of it, because the side that's actually glued in on the inside looks way better than this, but it doesn't fit correctly. So yeah, Revell has this one. Flames of War model does not have it. Also, this engine piece right here, the engine exhaust port, it's a little exaggerated on the Cobra model. I don't recall ever seeing one actually quite this long. Remember, I live on Fort Hood Army Base, so I've seen these over the years quite frequently. Also, you notice you got this part right here, and it's got a better detailing over here. His rear rotor is broken, but the Battlefront model, Flames of War model, is tail heavy, so that's how it sits. So you have to do something like this, but it's going to be sticking on a flight stand anyway. Versus the Revell model, it actually kind of more or less sits there, but like I said, it sits kind of low. Interestingly, the rotors on each of these models, I do apologize for the shakiness, are different in size. I'm going to try to get it lined up here so that way you could tell. There we go. The Team Yankee model's top rotor is slightly larger. I want to say about a 1/4 inch, maybe even 1/2 inch in length. However, the Revell model is wider. So not a big deal unless you are a rivet counter. So yeah, that's what we have there. So my wife, gotta love my wife, she knows I was looking for Cobras, so she got me the Transformers Bumblebee. This is Dropkick from the new film Bumblebee. It's much larger, way larger. She thought it would work for the game. Gonna have to say no. It's a little bit too big, way too big. Yeah, it's just a little bit way too big. The reason why the Battlefront model is sitting higher is because of skids. The skids on this one is actually much thicker plastic, and it does look better. It looks way better higher up. So yeah, well, I do love this one. Don't think I'm going to be using it on the table because, like I said, it's about 2 inches longer. Yeah, about 2.5 inches longer. It does look nice. It's a nice model. Don't get me wrong. But she got it with the thought of, hey, is this set in the 80s? Have a Transformer in the mix, which would be cool. I would love to use Dropkick in there. Have him transform on the field just to do it. But that's not going to happen. So let's get some figures here for comparison. And once again, as you know, I do not have any Flames of War or Team Yankee minis. So we're going to go with our true 15mm, which looks alright compared to it. This is the Ranger Infantry from that Salamander mech. You guys know I use it all the time. I could see a true 15mm model. Let's get the handy dandy pointer. This is true 15mm from toe to the top of the head. I could see this figure actually being able to be seated inside of this model here, or even this one. Then we have the Critical Mass games. Now we're all part of Europe. Don't know what it is now, what they're called. I can't remember what they're called, but it's another Merc. She's pretty cool. Slightly taller than the Salamander. Not too much, but just slightly. And once again, I could see her definitely being able to fit in this cockpit and be able to fly it. Then we have, for our chunky Boba Fett, 15mm Boba Fett. And he is just way too big to fit in there, but we're doing a game of imagination, so if you want to use your chunky ones, you can. Against it, looks pretty cool. And just for shits and giggles, yeah, no. Nope, not gonna happen. This thing, this Transformer, I don't even know what actual scale it is considered. This is about the size of a Blackhawk compared to these figures, or a Chinook. Blackhawk or Chinook, probably a Chinook would be the best comparison for it. So you can't use the Transformer one as much as I like. You can't use it. So there we go. Now I will not be painting this on camera for this video, for this purpose, because that will be part of my actual Tanks Modern paint vlog that's going on. So you decide which one you like. Remember, this is about $11.85 retail. You can find it for $8.95 online. Shipping is usually $5, so you're gonna get it for about the same price. If you like it, go for it. It is somewhat of a little bit of a pain because it's got little itty bitty pieces versus the Battlefront one, which from the instructions I saw, it's fairly easy to put together, a lot less cleanup. Just doesn't have the few little details that this one has, and this one doesn't have as many details as this one has. So it's your choice. So that's about it. I would have given you a comparison, a life-size comparison of an actual Cobra, but I didn't have a chance to get to the Fort Hood Museum today. So sorry about that. Maybe on the next run. That way you can see the size of some actual tanks if you are not familiar with it, if you've not had the opportunity to see real-world weapons of war. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this. You decide. Personally, I think I might be spending the money and just going ahead and get the Battlefront models, the Gale Force 9 models. They seem to be a lot easier to put together, less frustrating. But the paint scheme on this one will be interesting. Alright, have a good one guys. Stay safe. Take it easy.